Gesuli, good morning, welcome, Cocktail. You join us with this journey we're taking in the book of Judith. In the third video, beginning the second chapter. But before we delve into it, we want to honor Saint Leo IV, absolutely a pope and confessor. So as a memorial to him, that he may help us progress and advance today in the name of our incredible Elohim, we say, well done, good and faithful servant, because thou hast been faithful over a few things, I will place thee over many things, says the Lord. The Lord loved him and adored him. He clothed him with a robe of glory. We beseech thee, O Lord, look mercifully upon the prayers of thy suppliant people, and by the intercession of Blessed Leo, thy confessor and bishop, whose solemnity we observe today, turn away from us the scourge of time, the scourge of thine anger, which we deserve for our sins. Dominum nostrum. Amen. Pope Leo. How about that, huh? So here we are with this second epistle, but before we delve into that, those of you who did not look at the maps online, I will start incorporating this as best as I can to our little presentations here. I want you to take a look at this map. The two empires that I discussed yesterday, they had a battle. This is where they were. This is Nineveh, over here to the west. To the east, Ecbatana. This is the mountain range, Wagawa, I was telling you about. This is where they battled, right there in the center. So these two empires, within, let's say, 100 miles of each other, their capitals, this wasn't going to last. So, just so you know, of the geographical proximity of these two empires. Alright, let us delve into the second epistle of this incredible book that we are exploring. With the most exceptional woman, one of the most exceptional women to ever bless terror with, Judith. And here we go. In the we left off with the 12th year of King Nabuchodonosor, when he defeated the Medes Empire, the Medes Kingdom. So in the 13th year, the next year, this king, on the 22nd day of the first month, which would have been known back then as Nisan, I believe Nisan, depending on the moon cycles, but that would have been the first month. The word was given out in the house of Nabuchodonosor, the king of the Assyrians, that he would revenge himself. Remember those nations he sent envoys to, and they all rejected him politely? Yeah, that's been grinding on him. So he calls all the ancients, all the captains, his men of war, and he communicated with them the secret of his counsel. And he said that his cogitation was upon that to subdue all the earth to his empire. Yes, that mortal sin of pride coming up yet again in mankind. It's because the devil knows this sin. He knows his most efficacious attack on any of us is with the weak. And pride among leaders, oh, that's a good one. So the devil knows what he's doing and where to go to create this manly sin. Continuing, which saying, when it had pleased them all, Nabuchodonosor the king called Holofernes, the general of his wars. Now there are some other books that list him as a captain. I just wanted to point that out. Either way, I believe he was a young man, and he was a very dedicated to his king and to the Assyrian nation. You picked a good choice here, this young General Holofernes. And he said to him, go forth against every kingdom of the West, and against them especially that contemned my commandment. Yeah. Why do you think Joachim writes this? Well, he writes this not because these kingdoms of man were threatened per se. Remember the words I read? He tells Holofernes to go forth against every kingdom of the West. So, let's take a look at what we're talking about here, shall we? Alright, the Assyrian Empire, out here to the east, okay? Assyria, west. He wants to, these are some of the communities, the nations that he contacted, and they said no. But guess what else is out here in the west? Judea, Jerusalem, the richest place on the planet. Well, it was, and they're bringing back some of the wealth now. Again, that's another story, but yes, Jerusalem, Judea is out here in the west. Now, you have to understand, I don't know if the king thought about Judea at this time. It's not written. Either way, Joachim doesn't write about it. But, and the reason's because there's been this international renowned treaty now. Jerusalem, the Jewish people have just now returned back to their land. They've been held captive in Babylon for several years. So they just returned to Judea. So it's hands off Judea to the entire community, to the entire world community. That's the word that's out there right now. Hands off Judea. So I'm not sure if King Nabuchodonosor had his eyes set on Jerusalem when he gave this order to Holofernes. You'll have to be the judge of that yourself as you read on and learn with us. We're continuing. Thine eye shall spare no kingdom, and every fenced city thou shalt subdue to me. Yeah, it's a pretty cruel command given by a pretty cruel tyrant. And the execution of this command is, you're going to learn, is going to be even more cruel. Continuing, then Holofernes called the captains and the magistrates of the power of the Assyrians, and he mustered men for this expedition, as the king commanded him. And what did he put together? What did the king put together for Holofernes? 120,000 foot soldiers, an incredible 12,000 archers on horseback. All right, we need to talk about this a second. Those of you who have fired a weapon, have you ever fired a weapon from a moving target? Have you ever fired a weapon from a moving target that was an animal, say a large dog, like a horse. Well, these archers, these Assyrian archers, were incredible shots. They could shoot on horseback day or night and hit their target. That's how incredible this Assyrian army was. It blows the Medes Empire away in regards to the massiveness of this army and the technology they're using and the sheer awesomeness of it. You have to say, as far as man's concerned, this is, for back then, an incredible venture. Something that the world has never, ever before seen. And it's about to. Continuing. And he made all his expedition to go before in a multitude. We're not finished. Because Holofernes is equipped with an incredible mobile city. Because the king also gives him, this young general, also gives him an endless supply of camels. With those things that might suffice the armies abundantly, which include herds of oxen, flocks of sheep, which had no number. Continuing, he appointed corn to be prepared out of all Syria in his passage. So as this Assyrian army was heading out of Mesopotamia, going west, as they're going through Syria, they are collecting the corn for the food to help supply this incredible mobile army. Nothing demolishes the morale of this marching army than the lack of good food and money, which the king and the general are both cognizant of these facts. Continuing, but gold and silver he took out of the king's house exceeding much. He told him, so take what money you needed. So Holofernes went inside that tabernacle and grabbed a lot of cash, a lot of gold and silver. Continuing, and he went forth and all the army with the chariots and the horsemen and the archers, which covered the face of the earth as locusts. You can always find the devil's recruits, folks, amongst the weak. And the weak consistently, for some reason, survive in numbers. You'll never see one weak person standing out against the good. Weak has always gotta develop people behind him or her to make this stance. And the devil again knows this. A frenzied mob. Nothing like a frenzied mob, out of control mob that's just being led by pure nothingness but hate and anger. Continuing, and when he had passed through the coasts of the Assyrians, he came to the great mountains of Ange. Just give me a second, I'm going to tell you where we are here. So what happened? This army, as it heads out west, almost pretty directly west, they come to the Great Sea, which is down over here. But right north of the Great Sea is this nation called Cilicia. Now to the very west of Cilicia is this incredible mountain range called the Ange Mountains. So this is what we're talking about over here. This is where the army has marched to this coastal mountain communities of Cilicia. And he went up into all their castles and won every fortress. And he breaks down the renowned city of Melothus. And then he spoils all the children of this community called Tharsis. And he does the same thing to the children in a neighboring community called Ismael, which were against the face of the desert and on the south of the land of Ceylon. Right. And he passed over Euphrates and came into Mesopotamia. Give me 1 second. Alright, so what we're talking about now is they went all the way west to the Great Sea, northern part of it, to that nation called Cilicia. Now they're heading back. As they're heading back towards Mesopotamia, the first big river they cross is this huge river of the Euphrates. As soon as they cross this is what we're talking about. Then they head back to the coast. Now while they're doing this, Holofernes gives some disastrous orders. Pretty ugly. So as we continue, and he passed over Euphrates and came to Mesopotamia, as I was saying. And what he does is he breaks all the high cities that were there from the torrent of Membre till the sea. So the Euphrates River, where I showed you, from there back to the sea west, he destroys all the high cities, all the cities that are higher. Why? Strategic advantage. Military-wise, height has the advantage. Looking down to see versus looking up to what you can't perhaps see. So this is what he does. And these aren't military communities. These are hard-working civilian communities that live in the mountains, and they were just wiped out. Stomps them down. Continuing, and he carried away all the children of Madian and spoiled all their riches, and all that resisted he slew in the edge of the sword. Why? Huh? Why were the children involved so much? Can you think? Well, King Nabuchodonosor was so hurt by these nations not accepting his world alliance or domination that he knows precisely how to truly punish a nation. And he does this by going after the seeds of the future. And this is done in one of two ways. One, you breed out the natural bloodlines with your own people, or two, you remove or kill them. So Holofernes does exactly that. And after these things, he went down into the fields of Damascus. In the days of the harvest, he set all the corn on fire and made all the trees and the vineyards in Damascus, the mighty city of Damascus, to be cut down. And the fear of him fell upon the inhabitants of that land. Holofernes is building himself an incredible reputation and fast. But he's not doing it against armies. He is just stamping out nations with very, very, very little resistance. And that's why he's making this reputation for himself, being so cruel, so violent. But he's doing it. And he's doing it well, and he's doing it according to the commands of his king, the orders that was given to him. If you take a look at this map here, you can see the destructive path this Assyrian army has already done. So they began up here in Cilicia. There's the Great Lake, okay? So they began up here in Cilicia and then these mountains. Then they marched themselves back to Euphrates, and they worked their way back and took care of all the hill countries up there. And this is where they made them way down here and expanding the Assyrian Empire and just chomping city by city. Holofernes and the Assyrian army, the world has never, ever seen such violence under such a vast, mobile, manual empire before. As we continue, never before had Terra or her neighboring nations witnessed such a blatant disregard of life and these traditions. Now to say, for the first time, Terra is finally trembling under the foot of mankind. Disgustingly so. But violence goes around this entire book. It surrounds it. It's part of the theme, which is why I want to discuss it. Because of people taking lives so foolishly, and they think it's so simple. And there's nothing else that goes into just snuffing out life. It's like breathing. You're wrong. It is absolutely horrendous to engage in such mortal sins. And that's why we're discussing this book of Judith. Because what she does, to go through what she endures, should be at the onset of every man or woman who's been charged to take a life, either by themselves mentally or through someone else. Murder is murder, folks. Hope you enjoyed and learned something this second epistle. We'll now conclude and join us next when we begin book 3 of the incredible book of Judith. Until then, Pops Wolbies.